Welcome to the Rachel Varga podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Varga, double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist since 2011 with over 20,000 rejuvenation procedures performed. I'm an international clinical trainer for other physicians and nurses as well, celebrity skin expert, having been featured on some of the world's top proactive aging podcasts, and much, much more. Learn more at rachelvarga.ca and enjoy today's episode. Welcome everyone to today's live recording right here on the Rachel Varga podcast. I'm thrilled to have you joining me here today because what we're going to cover in today's show are the hallmarks of aging and what we can do to slow this process and be our most beautiful versions from the inside out. We're going to get into some technical research topics. We're going to get into skincare, some supplements, and also some practices for being more beautiful, including some free and easy things that you can do today. Be sure to subscribe to the show, like, share, comment this episode, share this with a friend or family member that could really benefit from this message today. All right, first things first, I would love to update you all on a few things that I have been researching behind the scenes. I have 3 papers on the go, an article on blue light and the skin, EMFs and the skin, and also parasites and the skin. So you can be sure I will be touching on those topics. But first, what about peptides? So peptides started to gain popularity in the biohacking space. Biohacking is the art and science of hacking our environment to support our biology because we are living in toxic times with our air, water, lighting, and electromagnetics. If you're new to the show, there is a free download that I would love to offer each and every one of you over at rachelvarga.ca/slowaging. That free download is in the description below, where I cover 4 key skincare basic principles and also 5 key biohacking principles to help you get on the right path. So what peptides am I looking into right now? Well, there's a few. I'm looking into a couple peptides. One of them is called melanotan, and the other one is PT141. Now, these have been researched since the 90s, and about 2 years ago, they started to gain popularity in longevity and aesthetics clinics. And some, in my opinion, some of the most forward-thinking clinics are starting to offer this to their clients. Now, when we're talking about research and peptides, this is still relatively fringe. The majority of the population aren't yet doing peptides because there is a little bit of a barrier to doing these. They do, of course, need to be prescribed and they are delivered in a certain way. And the research that we are seeing is that essentially these peptides that we can take can actually help to support digestion, hormone regulation, libido, and even the skin, also by reducing inflammation in the body. This is really, really exciting. And I definitely would like to see this being offered a little bit more, especially in regards to men and women's sexual health. As we age, things start to shift in the body. We start to see hormonal changes. We start to see libido changes. And there's some very promising information that is coming to the forefront in the space of peptides. So more on that later. I just wanted to give you all a little bit of an update because a few of you have been asking. Michelle, I just did a wonderful 30-minute follow-up with you. You're like, what peptides are you looking into right now? And those are the 2 that I'm looking into. BPC 157 is also a really popular one, and peptides.org has some interesting insights and talks about some of the research. So you can definitely check out the resource peptides.org. And of course, what we talk about here is not medical information. If you think you have a medical condition, you must seek the guidance of a licensed physician. I do, however, see this becoming more popular in the coming years. Some of the oral and topical applications you're seeing with the peptides, there are some issues with the delivery systems through the skin and also being absorbed through the gut. So this is actually something that's done subcutaneously at home. similarly to a diabetic giving their own insulin at home. So that's sort of the biggest barrier that we see right now, in that most people don't want to be doing that at home. However, there are a lot of people in the research space that are looking pretty heavily into peptides for slowing aging by essentially giving the body a little bit more of what it already produces naturally through different parts of the brain, like with the pituitary. So the research with peptides is promising, and I will be continuing to keep you all updated here on the show. So let's get into some skincare essentials as well as some advanced options for helping to slow aging. And first, let's talk about some of the hallmarks of aging on the skin. Number one, you might start to see some loss of elastin and collagen, maybe some changes around the eyes. Research shows us that the eyes are actually the first area of the face to show signs of aging. So typically when someone reaches out to me, they're asking about things like, Rachel, what do we do about hooding to the upper and lower eyelids, lower eye bags, and darkness around the eyes? These can be some of the first signs of aging, as well as thinning of the skin, which typically happens at first between the ages of 37 to 41 when there's some hormonal shifts. And then, of course, through menopause. And it's really unfair how the aging process is actually a bit different for men and women. There's actually a study in 2017, 2018 that looked at the face shapes between men and women. And women's faces change shape 3 times faster than men's between the ages of 50 to 60. So if you're noticing that your counterpart isn't aging at the same rate as you, there's actually some research to actually validate that. So it might not all be in your head. So what are some of the skincare essentials to help with hydration, elasticity, collagen, and also pigment changes as well? We tend to accumulate those pesky age spots, which is essentially a buildup of melanin in the skin, which can be related to hormones, can be related to toxins, the inability of your body to clear out what's called these senescent cells, which are kind of like zombie cells. So what we have happening in the body as we age, some of the hallmarks of aging that the show's all about, are these buildup of cells that no longer serve a function, and the body just isn't quite able to clear out the things. So that's where senolytics come in. And senolytics are very interesting compounds that basically gobble up these senescent cells. It's sort of like pruning a tree. We prune a tree to get rid of leaves and branches that are no longer producing as much fruit or foliage as we like. So that's what happens in the body as we age. We essentially have this buildup of these cells that just aren't really doing much, and then it can deposit in the skin in the form of a sunspot, an age spot, or a brown spot. Now, one of the really interesting things that I did last year, which is going to tie into a future topic here in this episode, is fasting and actually doing a longer fast. Some of you listening could actually be intermittent fasters, and some of the research shows that if you do one long fast a year of about 5 to 7 days, you're still having some foods. It's not like a complete water fast. I mean, I don't think I could ever do that. That sounds a little too challenging for me, and could be a little bit disruptive in my regular everyday routines. But I did this on a hike in altitude at about 7,000 to 8,000 feet. So what it's doing is it's putting your body in a little bit of a stress state, and you're in autophagy. So getting into an autophagy state is a great way for your body's innate healing mechanisms to start to kick on and clear out those senescent cells. Some of the other things that we start to notice with our aging process is weight gain and accumulation of adipose tissue or fat that just isn't going away. And we actually call that weight loss resistance. And the reason why we can sometimes experience this is toxins can be held in our fat cells. And if those toxins aren't cleared out, those fat cells aren't going to be able to shrink as easily as they would like to. When we gain weight, our fat cells get larger. When we lose weight, they get smaller. And different rejuvenation technologies can actually help to create cellular apoptosis of fat cells. So that's where this whole concept of body contouring and body sculpting comes in the non-surgical aesthetics and plastic surgery space. So very interesting things to just touch on. And some of the skincare essentials that you're certainly not going to want to miss out on is cleansing the skin morning and night with a double cleanse in the evening, and using really potent skincare products such as eye creams, antioxidant serums, moisturizers, and sunscreen every single day. We may think that, oh, we're just, on Zoom or working from home on our laptops with our devices or tablets. The LEDs from your devices are actually penetrating about 100 nanometers deeper into the skin than the sun that you get outside. So if you're thinking, oh, I can skip sunscreen, I'm just working from home today, think again. So sunscreen every day is really important. And it's really key to be using an only mineral-based sunscreen, no chemical filters. Those are toxic, they're hormone disrupting, they're killing coral reefs. There's tons of research on the negative impacts of chemical sunscreen filters that are often mixed into your tinted sunscreens, your moisturizers with sunscreens, and also BB creams and primers with sunscreens. So if you have any questions, you want me to check over your products with you, that's where a one-on-one comes in pretty handy. And I pull on my background of Gen Chem, Organic Chem, and Biochem to teach you some things that you need to avoid. Some of the more advanced options are going to be exfoliation at home. What happens as we age, some of the hallmarks of aging, is our cellular turnover of our skin starts to slow down. So for me in my mid-late 30s, it does start to slow down a little bit. And then when we hit our 40s, 50s, and 60s, it really starts to slow down. And the skin cell cycle can go from about 30 days up to about 40 and even 40 plus days. So it takes longer from the skin underneath where you can't see it to actually reach the surface in that cellular process of movement of cells in the deep skin layers to the superficial layers. What we see is actually dead skin. It's called the stratum corneum, and all sorts of dirt, debris, pollution, cosmetic creams, makeup can get stuck in there. And then it can make the skin feel a little dry, dull, rough. Even skin redness can start to occur if you're not exfoliating properly. So advanced options are going to include things like exfoliants using alpha hydroxy and beta hydroxy. And retinol or vitamin A is also considered a bit of an advanced option too. This really helps to speed up cell turnover. And with it, you can experience a little bit of initial redness, flaking, and skin sensitivities. That's why you always want to have your basic skincare protocol on hand and a really good moisturizer to be able to feed and nourish the skin from the dryness and slight irritation at first when you're starting to use your retinol, which is called the retinoid reaction phase. Now, there are lots of gentle retinols on the market. For example, the Intense Corrective Vitamin Serum on my e-store is a very gentle, clean form of it that's even compatible with dermal rolling. And dermal rolling is another advanced option that you can do at home to help to reduce pigmentation, reduce pore size, and of course, stimulate collagen and elastin. More advanced options can include in-clinic rejuvenation, and lasers can actually be helpful for breaking down the accumulation of pigment in the skin, what I just spoke to earlier of sunspots and age spots. They can even help to zap little broken capillaries on the skin, which most of us tend to accumulate around the nose area. They're simply signs of aging that are pretty common, actually. There's even a couple Stanford studies that looked at a specific type of in-clinic laser rejuvenation that actually changed the epigenetics and cellular expression of the skin. They compared a 30-year-old and a 50-year-old. And after the laser session, the 50-year-old skin, from an epigenetic standpoint, meaning that the way that the cells were expressing themselves was actually younger. This is exciting that we can use biophotomodulation in order to actually make the skin younger. So this is very exciting. And I will preface this by saying not all in-clinic laser technologies are created equally. And I really have only about 3 that personally I like to recommend. And I spent about 2 to 5 years. It was about 3 years getting my hands on most of the top lasers that are available. And what I noticed was a lot of the really popular lasers that you'll see celebrities talking about or endorse actually weren't as good as some of the ones that didn't have all the media and marketing. They spent a little bit more time in research and development. And I do actually see this trend in skincare. I also see this trend in beauty supplements and all these other gadgets that you can find on your social media that you're being advertised on. And this is just something that I've really observed in the consumer space. So when you hang out with me here on the Rachel Varga podcast, what my aim is to help you be, I really want you to be a more conscious consumer. So not just getting that bright, shiny object, that magic bullet that's claiming to do this, that, and the other thing. It really is about using options that are tried and true and have gone through the rigors of proper research and development, not just something that's been created really quickly and then you use it and you don't get the results that you're hoping for. And that's a big waste of your time and money. The other thing I really want to talk about is how to quickly reboot your system, reduce inflammation, and slow aging. Essentially, one of the root causes of aging is inflammation, and this has also been coined inflammaging. So what can we possibly do to reduce inflammation in the body? Well, there's a couple of things. And the first place I recommend starting is actually with your food. And I get asked all the time, Rachel, what is the best diet for skin? What are the best skin foods? And what it really comes down to is, again, going to this word epigenetics. What we want to do is give our body, we all have this unique, beautiful DNA blueprint. We want to give our body the foods and the nutrients that are going to be most supportive of healthy skin cell expression. So the study of the expression of our DNA, which is modulated and sometimes interfered with through our environment, like toxins and air, water, lighting, electromagnetics, and also in our foods. So I'm about to do my full body intelligence. A Viome, in my opinion, makes one of the best test kits available to actually, from the comfort of your own home. You just order this. You can go to rachelvarga.ca/favorites, and you'll see the Viome test here. Now, what this test includes in this little box here is the ability to take a sample of your own stool, blood, and saliva, and then send it off to their lab in Seattle for analysis. And I'm actually going to be going to their lab, which is very exciting. So check out rachelvarga.ca/favorites. The link to my favorites page is in the description of this episode. That's where I would start to test instead of guess what the right foods are for you. And I've worked with tons of clients that have done the food elimination process. That's really time consuming. It's a little bit haphazard in my opinion. And using the Viome test kit is one of the most specific ways that you can learn which foods are going to be most supportive for you. And what's really cool about that test kit is you send off your results, it gets interpreted, and then on your phone, you have a readout of your superfoods, your minimized foods, and your flat out avoid foods. And I was really surprised the first time that I went through my results. I was eating a lot of the wrong foods that were considered healthy, and I was told were healthy for, being healthy and eating healthy foods. And it was actually incorrect for my body. So we want to test instead of guess what we're eating. So in order to quickly reboot your system, reduce inflammation, and slow aging, it really comes down to how you're eating and not eating foods that are inflammatory. It's not just about eating organic. It's really about eating the foods that are going to best support you and your specific needs. And if you're thinking about, okay, hormones might be off, you're aging, the first place to start with getting your hormones balanced in conversations. I've done over 650 interviews and connected with some of the best OBGYNs and gynecologists and hormone health experts. It really does start with the gut. If the gut isn't right, honestly, doing things like HRT and all this stuff, it could provide some benefit, and there's always risks and benefits with everything, but start with your food choices first. Get your gut right. If your gut's not right, you're going to have inflammation and all these little inflammatory mediators going through your body. And we can almost think of the gut as a second brain. If your gut's off, you might even experience more things like anxiety or brain fog. So start there with your food selection. The next thing I really want to cover is detoxification. If we're talking about rebooting the body in a really quick way, doing a detox is a great place to start. Now, there's many detoxes on the market, and this is something that personally I practice every couple of months and sometimes even once a month around the full moon. And what detoxing is going to do is it will help your body get rid of some of those senescent cells, or even things like yeast, fungi, toxins, mold, and parasites that are not only in the gut, but can go throughout the body, through your bloodstream, get into different organs, and of course in the skin. And the first couple things that I noticed when I did a really good cleanse, which was the lifestyle cleanse. The lifestyle cleanse you can get on my favorites page. It's number 2 on there. I would do that at least every quarter for you and your family. It's getting your body into an alkaline state. Follow your specific food recommendations that you get through the Viome test. And then that's really going to help reset and reboot your body. Now, the biggest things I noticed within actually just about maybe 3 or 4 weeks of doing the lifestyle cleanse, because it's a couple of weeks, it's not about doing a cleanse for 3 days or doing a cleanse for 10 days, because certain things that can accumulate in the body, like yeast, fungi, toxins, mold, and parasites, they do take time to clear out. So when you combine the lifestyle cleanse with the Viome food optimization, that is really a great way to quickly reboot your system. And I started to notice my edges of my hairline all came back. My nails are insanely strong now. And I started to notice less inflammation in my skin. And sometimes when you get those breakouts, you have the redness that can stick around a little bit longer. And the redness after a breakout is called post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, otherwise known as PIH. And that's really frustrating. I used to have to get laser sessions once a month to get rid of the redness post-breakout. Now they tend to go away either within a couple of days or a week or 2. Now, when you get a breakout or you've had sun exposure and you're noticing pigmentation or the redness just isn't going away, those are actually indicators that your body is inflamed. So the faster you heal, the faster you can clear things like reds and browns in the skin is a really good signal that you're doing things right. And for those of you joining live here, be sure to ask some questions in the comment section. I'm more than happy to take some live Q&A, do some Q&A here with you all who are tuning in. So detox and eat the right foods. This is first and foremost. And when you're detoxed, you're going to inevitably give your body the best chance possible to slow aging. If your body is full of toxins and all these things, you're going to have things messing and toxins messing with your metabolic processes, the cellular machinery in the body, if you will. So essentially, we want the body to be as detoxed as possible and also give the body the foods and nutrients that it needs in order to function in the way that it wants to function. Sometimes when we are talking about rebooting the system and changing your foods and adding these lifestyle cleanses and detoxes, it can be a little bit of a surprise to the brain. We tend to be programmed that a certain way of living is a healthy way of living, And you're not going to find a lot of this information on the mainstream. Unfortunately, this is really something that I've had to educate myself on, having segued from just working as a double board certified aesthetic nurse specialist to then being in connection with some of the leaders, the biggest names and innovators and disruptors in the functional wellness space. So when you can combine those worlds and actually many other worlds as well, you're really going to be helping to set your body up to slow aging. All right, so let's get into some free and easy things that you can do at home to enhance blood flow, brain power, and nutrient delivery. And for those of you tuning in live, what do you think my number one free and easy tip is for enhancing blood flow? So for the gentlemen tuning in, this is something that's going to be really important for you to consider. All the guys want good blood flow. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory what that means. And then for everyone else, we really want to have good blood flow to our brain and to our organs so that our brain works properly, so we have less brain fog and our hormones are more balanced. If the brain is off, if it's not getting the right amount of blood flow, and also detoxing while you sleep, what happens is things aren't going to be working properly. And the brain is one of the huge regulators of the body for hormone production and hormone regulation. So if things are off, your hormones are going to be off, your mental clarity is going to be off as well. So some of the free and easy things that we can do at home to enhance blood flow, brain power, and nutrient delivery is grounding, being barefoot outside. And I was just talking to my mom the other day. She might even be listening live here. She loves to tune in live. When you're just feeling maybe not quite right or a little bit kind of high strung or even a little bit jittery, how I feel when I'm ungrounded is just like that. Like I've had like 4 cups of coffee and just not quite right. So simply standing outside with your feet on the ground is one of the easiest ways to start to balance your blood. And what this is doing is it's changing the ionic electromagnetic interactions in the body. When we're not grounded, when we're inside too much, our red blood cells will stick together and you won't have good blood flow through your circulatory system. They're going to stick together. You're going to get clotting factors and all sorts of other issues with the blood. So the blood is really important. There was some research by Dr. Beverly Rubik that was published in early 2022 that actually went through the peer review process 6 times, which is pretty unheard of. Some of you know I'm on the board of a journal, and the peer review process is honestly, it's usually one round of 6 to 8 people going through the paper. But to have a paper go through the peer review process 6 times really means that that paper done by her, RUBIK, Dr. Beverly Rubik, is a substantial research article. And she was really looking at the blood. So when you're thinking of brain fog, long haulers, and all this stuff, you really just want to stop and take inventory. How grounded are you? Are you having things like heart palpitations, brain fog, just not feeling quite right? Standing outside with your feet on the ground is the number one way to balance and ground your body. All of the hormones that are created through the brain, peptides and all these things, they're actually modulated. The creation and the amount of them is modulated by ions, right? Protons, which are the positive ions, and electrons, which are the negative ions. And if those are off, your hormones and peptides in the body that are trying to be naturally produced are going to be off. So that's why grounding is so important. And you hear me almost say this in every episode. And one of the things that add to being ungrounded is being on your cell phone for 5 minutes. So keep your phone on airplane mode. Don't use those AirPods. They're basically sending Bluetooth between your brain, which doesn't sound like a great idea to me. But being on your computer, actually, let me just show you here. I have an EMF reader here. Being on your computer is basically putting me, I might as well be sitting in front of my router. So that's why a lot of times I'll wear certain clothing when I'm working business on top And I'll actually be wearing lambs or no choice EMF protective clothing, which you can find on my favorites page at rachelvarga.ca/favorites. So barefoot outside, start to wear some EMF clothing. I sleep in EMF clothing all the time, and it really does help to enhance your sleep. When you're sleeping, what happens is your brain is actually detoxing. The brain detoxes while you sleep. There's a really good TED Talk on this actually, where just a couple of years ago it was determined that that's how the brain detoxes, because the body has lymph nodes, and lymph nodes are responsible for, taking in toxins, putting it through your lymph system, and then when you go to the restroom, that's when you're excreting your toxins. But the brain doesn't work that way. It shrinks, and then the cerebral spinal fluid basically goes in and flushes out the brain. So one of the things that I really like to do before bed is actually drink a lot of water. And I find that when I drink, even up to a liter of water before bed, of room temperature, slightly warmed water, I always wake up more refreshed. So that's something that you can do for free too. And always make sure that your water is reverse osmosis or distilled. And then you can go a step further and structure it. You can do hydrogen water. You can even find the Synergy Science hydrogen water options on my favorites page too. So free and easy things to do at home to enhance your blood flow are grounding, and also making sure you're getting good sleep and staying hydrated throughout the day. These are the basics. All right. The other thing I want to talk about when we're talking about water is today's sponsor of this episode. So today's episode is brought to you by Organifi Superfood Juice Powder Blends. Use code VARGA and save 20% at Organifi.com/Varga. You'll also see this one front and center on my favorites page at rachelvarga.ca. I'm obsessed. This glow one is essentially a collagen type of product, and it is delicious. It tastes like a not so sweet pink lemonade, and I have this one all of the time. It has tremella mushroom, which is really important here. So tremella mushroom actually holds, I think it's like 5 times more water than hyaluronic acid. We've all heard of hyaluronic acid. And hyaluronic acid is a main humectant, or basically it pulls water from the air to keep the skin more hydrated in your antioxidant serums, your moisturizers, and all sorts of things. There's also what's called adaptogens in the Organifi products, and adaptogens make your body more resistant to stress. We all experience stress, whether it's psychological, whether it's environmental or toxic as well. So, and I mean life in general, right? You have something pop up and it requires your, full steam ahead attention. You got to deal with it. You got to put out small fires in your professional and your personal life. So adaptogens are really important. And there's amla, rosehip, aloe vera, bamboo silica, pomegranate, boab fruit, coconut water, lemon, and raspberry, as well as that tremella mushroom. So the glow formula is definitely a staple. And then if you drink coffee, what you can actually do is, coffee is known as being very acidic, and acidic foods and having the body more acidic is actually also one of the hallmarks of aging. It's one of the key contributors to aging. So what you can do is add the Harmony cacao into your coffee. You can even have the cacao before bed. It's very soothing, and I love this one. The Harmony is specifically for helping to balance your hormones. So these are great products. They're super tasty. Have them for yourself, give them to your kids, and stay golden. If you want great skin, if you want to slow aging, taking adaptogens is a really important part. So yummy. So be sure to get your Organifi products if you haven't yet at rachelvarga.ca/favorites, or head straight to Organifi.com/Varga and use code Varga to save 20% off. All right. What I would really love to do now is talk about, again, some of the hallmarks of aging: stress, being in that higher brain, high beta state. We've all been there, where our higher brain starts to chirp up and tells you to worry about this, worry about that, worry about something that hasn't happened yet. And what this does is it gets us in this psychological energy draining loop of worrying about things that haven't happened yet. If you worry, you're going to be more likely to have that worry become part of your reality as well. So what you focus on is what you will get more of. So focus on the beauty around you in people, places, and things, and attract more beauty, love, and peace into your life for a more beautiful way of being from the heart. I know that this might sound a little fluffy to some of you. This is really, really key. If you walk down the street and you take inventory of what people look like while you're walking, if they are looking like they have this very flat, dull, it's like, where did their soul go kind of thing, they're not going to be they're not going to be presenting as someone who's more beautiful or radiant. So this is getting into a little bit of the psychological aspects, behavioral aspects, and even spiritual and esoteric aspects to beauty, radiance, and slowing aging. Looking at the beauty around you, noticing that beautiful rose, go smell that rose, go touch that tree, and admire the landscape around you if you're going out for your walk in nature. And also notice the beauty of other people, places, and things in your life. Notice the beauty of you. Celebrate things that you've done to really kind of boost your confidence and say, yeah, I did that. Acknowledge the great things that you've achieved in your life, and you'll be in this mindset of attracting even more of that. So celebrate with some Organifi. For some of you that drink alcohol, I'm really sensitive to alcohol. I can't have very much of it at all. Some of the cleaner options are going to be 100% agave tequila or champagne because it has a lower sugar content with champagne. A lot of the sugar in champagne has actually been fermented off, and fermentation is the process that actually creates alcohol. So that fermentation process is used in beer, it's used in wine, and so that's why champagne has the lowest sugar, because the fermentation process is a little bit different. And I can't handle sweet wines like Prosecco, like forget it. That's going to be an instant headache for me. Prosecco and champagne are not the same. Let me just preface this. Like a Brut or a Prosecco is not the same as a champagne. It comes from a specific region in France. And if you're looking for biodynamic wines and alcohols, actually sticking to countries like Italy or France, they tend to, for the most part, this isn't a 100% statement, but for the most part, their agricultural practices are a little bit different. There's different regulations on glyphosate in Europe compared to North America. And also, just an added perk for you guys to know, Organifi is a glyphosate-free product. A lot of the supplements and foods are heavy with pesticides, which is a huge toxin. And, you can easily look up the negative impacts of pesticides on the body, the accumulation of that. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that pesticides are probably going to speed up your aging process. So focusing on the beauty around you, take the time to do your skincare, do your makeup, do your hair, put on a nice outfit. When you take the time to present your best version forward, you're also going to get the best versions from those around you as well. And leading from the heart, when you're out on a walk and you notice someone smiling back at you, notice the warmth in their eyes and their smile. So sometimes it's helpful just to see a contrast with different types of people that are operating from different types of programs, if you will. So some of them, they're watching a lot of the news, they're toxic, they're just not happy with the state of the world or their lives, and then it's just, a downward spiral. However, if we shift that and focus on more beauty, we focus on more radiance, we focus on more love and gratitude, these are really important. And they do really special things to the brain. They're going to get you out of that high beta state of worrying about the woes of the world. It's not about, sticking your head in the sand. It is important to have an awareness of what's going on. Just make sure that the awareness that you have in your present state, what's immediately in front of you, the people, places, and things that are immediately in your awareness are very important to focus on and give that your attention. So when you're talking to someone, don't be yakking on your phone or checking your phone constantly. What that does is it actually signals to the other person that you're really not interested in the conversation. Don't even get me started on those smartwatches that, every time you get a notification, you get a little hit. These things can actually be very addicting. They can, when you get a hit or, a ping on your phone, it really stimulates your dopamine levels and sometimes your serotonin levels. And so people can get addicted to getting notifications. I see this with girlfriends when they're talking to guys and they get all excited when they get a message. And literally it's almost like doing cocaine or something like that, or eating, sweets and carbohydrates. It does things to the brain. It's very short lasting though. So some of the ways that I recommend being in a more beautiful present state, so having more present moment awareness, is to keep your phone on silent, keep it on airplane mode, check it when you want to check it, get rid of those smartwatches. If you want to wear it during your workout, just make sure it's on airplane mode and then check your statistics afterwards. Or if you wear an Oura ring, always make sure that that's on airplane mode, because that is sending and receiving Bluetooth. And EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, our body are highly electromagnetic. And if we're disrupted and if we're not grounded, what will happen is all those hormones and peptides and blood flow in the body, it gets messed with. So in order to give your body the best chance possible to slow aging, those are really free and easy things that you can start to do today. So thank you everyone for joining me here on the Rachel Varga podcast. Learn more over at rachelvarga.ca and use code podcast15 for 15% off of a one-on-one call with me. And also don't forget to shop easy for all of your skincare and personal care needs on my e-store. All the links are in the description of this episode. If you have a question from today's show, be sure to email me, info@rachelvarga.ca. And if you find something interesting that you'd like me to review, such as a skincare product, a hair, skin, nail supplement, or a gadget, and you would love for me to talk about this here on the show, send me a podcast request over at info@rachelvarga.ca. If you're already a client of me, send me a note and ask for a 30-minute follow-up. I'd love to connect with you, give you some updates behind the scenes, because I'm not going to, give away all my juicy slowing, aging, and skin secrets for free here on the show. However, I do love to give as much as I can for free here. Well, there's a lot of things that I do kind of have to keep behind the scenes. A lot of this stuff in the space of health and wellness, it can be difficult to find for very specific reasons. You're not going to make people a lot of money if you are happy and healthy. You're going to be making a lot of different companies more money if you're sick and unhappy. So let's flip that script and live our best lives and be our most powerful, beautiful, and radiant versions, and become more conscious consumers in the process. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me right here on the Rachel Varga podcast, also here on YouTube and Facebook. Just a reminder that I do actually record more frequently solo episodes just like this on the podcast platform only. So that's Apple iTunes, that's Spotify, all of the top podcasting platforms. And you can find the list of all the shows that I publish on my blog page at rachelvarga.ca. All right, I will see you guys again right here on the Rachel Varga podcast. Stay high vibe, stay beautiful, and be radiant.